Yeah, what's up?
Hey,
Did you get the poll up in order, or should I try and spin something up quick?
I did. Hey, morning, guys. Morning, Alex. Hey,
Morning.
Kip.
Yeah.
We got a new person, Insta guy. Not sure. Guy on? I'm not sure. Just to happy. And I got Eves in the house. Sil, Kingfisher. We'll give it a couple minutes for people to join. Have a lot of people signed up. Around 4 people signed up for this. So let's see if anybody's looking on the register real quick. We got one new person on the wait list. Let me add that. And that's it. If you close that. Hey,
I'm good.
I'm good. Is this your first Greenpill call, or have we done some other ones? All right, let me add Read AI to the call real quick. Cool. We'll just give it a little bit more time for people to join the call. Now we got about a couple more minutes, and we'll get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Cool. Let's get started. We'll have people hop in as we begin. First part will be mainly intro, so shouldn't miss anything too important. Thanks everybody for joining the call. This is, I believe, not sure which workshop, probably our 5th or 6th workshop, I want to say. And this one we're going to focus on MultiSigs, given that they're core primitive in a lot of our communities and part of, for one, tracking funds, but also for governance as well. So there's a lot of, good information and features we could get into to help make your safe experience better. So let's get started. So yeah, we're gonna focus on what safe is, why it's used as a fundamental primitive in a Web3 space. We're gonna talk about deploying safes across multiple chains, how you can make it secure, different integrations that are currently being built around it, such as the HATS protocol and HATS Pro, and then kind of just dive into any technical support or questions that people have with safe. All right, cool. So the first part of the call, do a quick overview of Gnosis Safe. I'm going to cover some of its core aspects. I'm going to share some tabs and go through some of the different core functionalities that currently exist with Safe, and then we'll go into an exercise where I set up a new safe, and then I also will update an existing safe to be multi-chain. So let's get started. And Matt will be dropping links throughout the call. And then after the call, we'll have a workshop guide that I'll share that has all the links and all the pages shared throughout. Cool. So let's get started. Do we have questions? Go for it.
Yeah, so before we start, I've always heard that you're supposed to create any crypto wallets not connected to the internet. Is it possible to do that with the safe?
Say any crypto wallet not connected to the internet?
When you create a crypto wallet, you're supposed to be disconnected from the internet and preferably actually air gapped for safety so that the private keys won't leak. Is that possible with a Gnosis Safe?
Well, I think because Gnosis Safe is basically deploying a smart contract that inherently will be, on chain, and I'm not sure if you could deploy it on chain. I do know when you create a new safe multi-chain that you have to activate it. So I do wonder if until you activate it, is it actually being deployed on chain? So that might be the phase where it's actually off chain and it's just local to your device before you deploy it. But yeah, not too sure on that one. I'm pretty sure, but once you deploy, it's definitely on chain because it's a smart account and there's no private key. Yeah. So this is okay. Let me get to this slide. Nice, great question. Okay, let me let some people on the call. I'm not sure if in real time. Give me a quick second. Gonna add Matt as a host to the call, so to let people in. Cool, Matt. Are you able to? I'm not sure if it'll update in real time. Hopefully it does, but hopefully you should be able to let people into the call going forward. We'll try rejoining. So cool. Let's get started. So first thing I want to share is, the Safe Global. So if you're looking to learn what is Safe, this is the place to start. And that kind of comes into Alex's question around what is a safe and how does it, where is it off chain and on chain? It's mainly on chain, given that it's a smart account that's being deployed. And let's see. Okay. So we're trying to do the call. Cool. You're a host now. Awesome. So now, basically with smart accounts, you're basically able to deploy it on chain and then have different EOAs that control that safe. So this helps to have more security around funds where you could hold your NFTs, different key assets under a multi-signature account, to where in order to do transactions, to move those funds, move those NFTs, you need to have multiple signers. And it's the safe kind of ecosystem is made up of two things, which is Safe Core, that's the protocol. Those are the contracts that live on chain that you could tap into modular things such as account abstraction and stuff of that nature. And then the Safe Wallet, which is the UI where most people use Safe and do transactions and stuff of that nature. So diving into some of the latest new functionality with Safes, they recently introduced SafeNet just at the end of last year, which is not a blockchain, but a transaction processor network that you could use, that they're looking to use to more consolidate things and make it easier and make it cheaper to do actions. So won't dive too deep into this, but this is definitely one of the newer features that they're pushing. And Matt will share all the links around it. Another feature that you're able to partake in safes is you can have proposers. So with proposers, you're able to have people that aren't signers on your contract, and I'll show what that looks like in the UI. But they're able to propose transactions, and that could be very beneficial for people that have kind of know what needs to happen, maybe around moving funds and projects, but aren't signers on the wallet. So it's a great way to get people involved in proposing transactions without having to add them as signers and update the threshold. And then another feature that which we're really going to focus on in this call is deploying a multi-chain safe. So this is a guide that goes over it. And now that safes have the ability to have a single address that you can deploy across multiple networks. And that's very powerful because a lot of grant applications take a run on different chains, such as Optimism, Celo, Arbitrum, and be able to just have one address that you could use to, for receiving funds, and then also for other use cases such as authoritative purposes, such as a council for your community, makes it a lot more powerful. And it's relatively new, so I know a lot of people have existing safes, and we'll dive into kind of how you could approach that if you already have existing safes and how you could try to reuse those safes for different use cases. And yeah, Matt will drop this link, but here's a nice article about everything you need to know about chain abstraction and about the different multi-chain aspects of Safe going forward. Cool. And then let's see. One thing is around security. I think recently Safe had I believe a hack from their front end UI where they're able to siphon some funds from a large wallet. And some things to do with Safe before you do transactions, you're able to simulate transactions. You're able to use different tools to kind of detect if it is viewed as a good transaction and nothing's bad. So definitely when using Safe, make sure to tap into the security features. We'll dive into some of what that looks like from a UI perspective in a little bit, but just with any transaction, just make sure you know what you're signing and make sure that everything's kept safe. Safes are inherently still safe because you have multiple signers, but still you want to make sure that you're not queuing up any malicious transactions. And another way to help with that is also they have an address book feature, which is a local, it's all stays local. It's not something that gets uploaded, but for your local Safe wallet UI on your device, you're able to add addresses and add different users and people so that when it's doing transactions, be able to see the name and have an identifier that makes it a lot easier to do over time. And then going to dive into Safe real quick. So this will be a first look, and I'll kind of highlight some of the things I just discussed and some of the other new features that they don't really have as much material around. So one thing that's new is you're able to add notes to transactions now. So it's experimental, so something that they're trying out. But this could be very powerful for things that don't need to be private by nature, and you want be able to kind of track over time and be able to retrospectively look back and get a sense of what happened. And then let's see if I go to settings. Oh, let's see. Closing this one, that's fine. So let's go to settings. You're now able to add proposers. So currently don't have any, but you can add a proposer such as, let's see, got core at the top. And just say community payouts or whatever, you'd want to name it. And then you can add that person as a proposer. And as well as multi-chain aspects. So we'll dive in. I'll go through a full setup of that in a little bit. But yeah, we'll get back to that. Let's continue around where safes are being used in different ecosystems for funding and governance. So one is with GiveIf. So if you have a GiveIf project, you'll be able to edit, and when you're creating it as well, you're able to put in different addresses to receive funds. Back in the day, I think this last year, typically you would use EOA because EOA is across multiple chains and just made it easier. And if you did have a couple safes, you'd input them for where they are. Now you could just have one safe deployed across multiple networks and then input, cover all these networks with the same address. And kind of have that be your grant receiving wallet, your working capital wallet, however you want to set it up. Yeah, so I believe Safe covers all EVM chains here. Polygon's covered, ZK EVM's covered. I'm not sure about Ethereum Classic. And then we also have, all these other ones are covered. So pretty powerful for GiveIf and getting donations. And also, if you're applying for a Bitcoin grant round, the typically get asked is your payout wallet in Gnosis Safe, which it doesn't have to be, but it's good if it is. And then you should select yes, and you could now use the same address, no matter what chain Gitcoin round is being run on. And lastly, with Octant, they also use safes on mainnet as how you receive funds, and they check that out to make sure that your project, when you apply, is using a safe. So same thing applies here. You could reuse the safe that you use across all your different grant ecosystem and applications. And then lastly,
before you go, something about why would we use MultiSig, right? On the applications, why not use the individual one? I think some applications, they got stronger because they have MultiSigs. So this is something that is open, so we can check this information. We can see how much signers it has, how much funds it has. So it's a pretty good standard to represent a initial governance structure when you.
Did you cut out there? Or do we lose call?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you cut out for a little, like a couple seconds.
Yeah, I just think that it is a pretty good signaling if you have already a MultiSig for your project and more people deciding the funds. I think this is a way you can show that just putting this address there and people can check.
And that goes back to it's used for both funding and governance. I think Corey's saying when you're able to put a multi-sig and show that multiple people are involved in this project, it makes it more powerful in a sense of okay, just multiple people controlling the funds. It's not just going to some EOA that's just being centrally controlled by a single person. And back in the day, I know people would even share private keys to with EOAs, but that's just not secure. We don't want to do that as well. So yeah, Safe's really the way to go to show projects. I know some projects are individual based, so if they are you're working on a project, that makes sense. But most projects, as we know, are initiatives. So being able to represent that is, I think, like Corey said, very powerful. And next was just gonna highlight Karma Gap, which also just pulls in safe data or uses your safe. So when you apply for a grant and you put that wallet, so if you put a safe, it's then going to associate that with your Karma Gap profile. So you're able to see here, this is actually one of our safes for the Dev Guild, this one here. And so it's just kind of used across all the emerging grants and impact tracking ecosystem. So using it, I think, is very powerful. And cool, so I'll pause to start. That was kind of the overview of Safe. Go back to the slides right here and open it up for some questions if anybody has questions before diving into setting up a new Safe. Feel free to just raise your hand or just go ahead and shout something out.
Okay, Jim, I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if it is right to ask at the beginning or maybe at the end, because I don't see this in the syllabus on how to transfer or connect an ENS to a MultiSig.
Oh, that's I think I could cover that. Yeah, I could go to the ENS and show how that look like, kind of the process.
Okay. That's one. And then the second question is, some platforms, they have support for a safe to be connected. I just want us to have a walkthrough on how you can connect it, just like in Karma Gap, how you can connect safe to a Karma Gap, not an EOA.
Yeah, I think this is a good suggestion. It's something
With the
that I
comment that
started.
one, I could
No, I
already
think
answer.
it's just the wrap process that we are doing, and maybe a wallet connect to today's two ways to do. I said that we can show the Habi wallet way and the wallet connect way to connect the MultiSigs to different platforms. This is something like people doesn't know how to do.
I'm not able to do that because I have to share that because I said extension, and so I won't be able to share that in an easy way. I have to update my permission. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to fully cover that, but we'll have we're gonna have a section after for technical support and to dive into things, breakout rooms. So I feel like that'll be a good time to dive into those things. Yeah. Any other questions? We're diving into setting up a safe. Cool. All right. Let's keep it moving. Let's see if and you guys still see the presentation and everything. Just to make sure it's all good for you guys. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna go through setting up a safe from scratch. How you can configure your signers and proposers, selecting different chains, activating them, and then seeding your multi-sig with funds to then do transactions. And then we'll also go through updating an existing safe and what that looks like if you want to add more networks. So let's get started. So the first thing here is a link to create, and you can get to this. So let me see. I'll show you guys how you can get to this. So see if everything loads. Okay, it looks like I got another minute to refresh to get the colors proper. There we go. So if you want to create, so it looks like we connect. So I'm connected. So yeah, basically sign in with whatever wallet you want to sign in with, and then you click create account, and then you're able to, from there, name it, and we could call this. You could always rename it. It's just stored locally, as you can see here. It's never shared. It's not saved anywhere. So we're gonna call test MultiSig. So we have test MultiSig, that works. And then you're able here to then see a list of all the chains you could select. So there's Ethereum, you can do Gnosis, Polygon, and all these were had as well. There's BNB, if that's Arbitrum, OP, Base. They got some new ones: Bearchain, Inc., Linea, Unichain, Scroll, Celo, of course, Mato. Well, yeah, and they even have some testnet. So if you were looking to test things out, you could deploy to Base and support them. I think for purposes here, let's just do kind of the OG ones we mainly use, which are, so I'll do these 4 here. And then you're able to add different signers. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna just I'll remove you guys later. So this will just be temporary. Let's say add Matt Coy. Then you can set threshold. You keep it at 1 just for demo purposes, so I don't have to ask Matt, of course, to sign anything currently. But here's a caveat on somewhere I want to pause on real quick, because currently when you deploy another safe multi-chain, so you selected this initial set of chains and you have these initial signers. Once you want to deploy it to other chains, the same signers will be used across those other chains. So you're not able to, so making sure that the signers initially are good, at least for whatever cadence, is very important, so that you don't deploy it on another chain and like, oh, the signer, this person's not active, like, and then have to like remove them and update them. And that will happen over potentially, but being aware of that at the start can help you plan it and structure in a way that's flexible. So you can just have a 1 out of 3 signers or a low threshold, so you can update things very quickly as needed. I see we have a question from Amio.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to ask how the wallets, they are now pre-filled and then registered. How did you do that?
Say that one more time.
I said, there are some wallets that you just added, and then they are pre-filled and then they are registered with some names. I just want to know how you were able to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's because they're my address book. So
Okay.
Which I will show. Yeah, let's see. I could show it over here. Give me a second. So I'm gonna go to this tab, and yeah, so here you're able to define your address book and associate all the addresses, different names and people. So yeah, and all this is locally stored. It's not being saved on chain. I do believe if somebody has an ENS, it'll resolve it. So if you just have their address and you put it in, they have an ENS, so like it'll show alpha.eth, mattycompost.eth, broeco.eth. But since I have given them actual names and titles, it shows me the respective names. But yeah, so definitely make sure, like with your address book, keep that updated. As you do a transaction to somebody for the first time, add them to the address book. It's pretty easy. You could do it within a transaction, and then from there have them saved going forward. Yeah, any questions before I deploy this and create this account? Cool. So yeah, there's a couple things they mentioned. You'll need to activate your account separately on each network. And you want to make sure you have funds in those different networks. Safe does have some sponsored transactions, so they'll cover some of the costs on different chains for activating your accounts, and hopefully we'll be able to look at that. And then, yeah, you're able to explore them and activate them later to do the transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. So it's been created. So now you have an address that you're able to use. But in order for it to actually be usable, and for other APIs that pull in safe data, verify you have a safe, you then need to activate it. So sometimes if you have a safe on mainnet, you might wait to activate it if gas is high and you want to, kind of save funds. And Safe does not sponsor mainnet transactions, which of course is not a surprise. But then, for example, I believe with Base, let's see if they will sponsor this. Let's see. There we go. So with Base, you're able to have a sponsored transaction. So you could get off, started without having to even pay any gas fees. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch to Safe, and I'm gonna activate. So yeah, so they sponsor from my usage. I've seen Arbitrum, Base, and OP seem to be sponsored chains, which I think where a lot of people do things. So it is very beneficial. So cool. Now your account is set, and now you can start making transactions. So what does that look like? You're able to go to here, you could send tokens. Of course, there's no funds in here, so let me seed this wallet with some funds. Come on, Base. See it. Got a little bit of ETH. But while I'm doing that, Eric, I think honestly I could do that later. I think I want to waste people's time just for me doing a transaction. But yeah, you're able to then do a transaction and send it to whoever once you have some funds in your wallet. And then if you want to add another network, what does that look like? You'd come here, open up this side panel, you click the three dots, and you click add another network. And that's then going to give you a list of networks you could deploy to. So let's say, okay, we want to add one on Celo, right? For example, I'll do Polygon. Yeah, we could do Celo. I won't be able to activate it because that's for funds, but you got Celo. I think you could add Mossfold. Okay, only one at a time. So you're able to then add one at a time. So that's definitely at the beginning when you could set it up. I think it's nice to do as many chains that you're going to be using for either governance or receiving funds, because it just makes it a lot easier over time, because adding new networks is one by one process. And yeah, so here you have a one on Celo. Let's see if they don't sponsor the gas, which that's a bummer. But I believe also with OP, they cover gas. So we get that OP real quick. OP will sponsor, and you get 5 free transaction. I believe it's per chain. So you get 5 free transaction per day on OP, 5 on ARB, 5 on Polygon, and whatever chains they do gas sponsor transactions. So this one's been activated as well. So yeah, we'll pause there. And any questions about setting up a safe and other things I could highlight or show in the safe before moving on to integrations. Let's see. Cool, we got some questions in the chat. Let me open that up. Yeah, definitely the most common chains used would be Optimism, Arbitrum, and Celo is definitely starting to pick up steam in usage for rounds. A lot of community rounds are being run on Celo. And then also Base is every now and then I'll see some rounds run on Base. But yeah, I'll say those 3 chains, Optimism, Arbitrum, and Celo on the main ones. I rarely see, except for Octant, they do their round on mainnet, I believe. They're the only one that do that, I believe. But anybody else could chime in to give their thoughts on the most common chains. I would say those are.
Thanks, Safo.
I'd agree with that. I was actually, so I know 2 QF rounds ago on Giveth was Base. I was actually just going to check where this ENS X Octant public goods round is. I wanted to say Optimism, but I probably shouldn't guess and just give you an answer once I've confirmed. But yeah, I'd say it's mostly those three, and I'd assume base is going to become more and more prevalent as well.
Cool. And then yeah, and any
I sent one USD glow to the MultiSig. I think you can do a transaction if you want.
well, I need ETH. Well, unless I could, it could be sponsored if it's a sponsored one. What did you send it on? Is that on base?
USD glow on base. I think they don't show up on the amount, but if you go to assets, you can see.
I think I could do a transaction. So I could get it sponsored. So let's see. It does actually show up, which is nice. So let's come back to this.
We are looking to the presentation, so just for you to know.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Afo, how we don't have a super chain feature already in Safe, right? Because this is something that is growing, and Base is part of it, right? The super chain. We don't have a super chain feature. It would be very interesting to Dev Guilds provoke this, right? This would be a very interesting thing because we could add another chains that would sponsor the gas fee too.
That's actually, that just reminded me about the superchain.eco wallet it's basically like a safe wallet that they're using to kind of create accounts. And I wonder, I feel like there's going to be a lot of updates there. I feel like around safes and kind of superchain and using your superchain.eco wallet as like your safe across the superchain ecosystem. And if you have that, it'll sponsor on transactions. I could definitely see something like that. And yeah, I just think it's kind of just waiting and a timing thing. But yeah, I feel like there's something like that coming down the pipeline. Which let me share superchain.eco if people haven't seen or aren't aware about it. And then I'll do a test transaction with it looks like my computer's running slow because I have so many tabs open to go through this. So I'm gonna start closing some tabs. But let me open up. Well, let's do the transaction first and then go into the superchain.eco. So Corey sent me some USD Glow. So I'm able to get that up and send it back with interest. And I'm joking. And then send back $1. And ideally it should be sponsored. So I could get it sponsored. So you could, and here's where you could simulate it, right? Successful. Okay, cool. You could even open up, kind of the report. So I'm opening that up right here to look at it. And definitely for big transactions, stuff like that, you'd want to, kind of take a look, see. And some of this isn't like fully all legible and it's a lot of data, but you definitely dive into a sense if you have somebody on your team that knows about transactions and stuff like that, and you can have them take a look and make sure things look right. Could add a note. It's gonna say thanks for the glow, and then you could execute it. So get it sponsored. So that's nice. We'll have that covered, and then I'm gonna execute it. And I should have. We'll get into after the call because I know some people that could share the screen because I don't have permissions to share all my whole screens, and I have to restart my computer and stuff for that. But I'd love to anybody that's using Rabby when we do the breakout sessions, we'd love to have them share their screens to show that experience and how you could use Safe with Rabby because it is a very nice user experience. So I sent that glow, and now it should refresh. Should be at 0 again. And it's very simple. And you could come to your transactions. You can see the history. And since there's only one signer, it didn't get queued up. But typically, if you have multiple signers, it's going to get queued up for that other signer for the other signers to sign and then execute. And one thing that's people that you don't really notice it, but if you're signing into different applications and stuff like that, you're going to be signing messages. You're not going to be doing transactions, and those show up here. So a lot of times, if you're trying to figure things out, hey, what's going on? I'm trying to sign in. Where's this at? There'll be messages here. And I also wanted to highlight, forgot to highlight in the first section, some of the different apps that are supported by Safe directly in the application. Let me go back to Cello, my Cello wallet. I think I had some saved there. So I bookmarked some apps to highlight. One is CSV airdrops, which is it allows you to like specify CSV of addresses and amounts, and then have that be sent. It's very similar to a tool we built in the dev guild called Owl Yeeter, where you could yeet funds to different addresses, and also you could upload a CSV. And then also this drain account, which is a nice safety measure in case maybe it's, a safe gets compromised and you need to quickly transfer all your assets. You could use this to do that. See, there's also GiveIf. So this is just basically just opening the GiveIf app where you're able to go and donate and be signed in. So let's see it will load. And let me start closing some tabs to get some better bandwidth here.
So this is already a way where you can use the MultiSig to do to interact on this application, these other applications.
And I think, and I'm not sure, because if you sign in, it's going to have you, sign a message and do that.
Oh, but there is only one signer. I think you can try to do.
Yeah. And then you can see how long do you want your session to be active. Let's make this for a month, so it makes it easier. And let's do it. Let's see if this is where things get, I think I'll have to close it right here. Do I have a transaction? Or a message? I think this is a demo, real time. So let's see.
Hey, Afo, doesn't it seem obvious that by this time, Safe would have a API or interface with Karma Gap, for instance?
That's something on the Karma Gap side that they would have to prioritize. When we get into integrations, we're going to highlight HAT's protocols, who's been actively working on automating safes and stuff like that. But I would say that's something that Karma Gap would need to prioritize if it's on the roadmap.
All right.
Well, it looks like, not, and just for the sake of time, keep going. But just to highlight some other applications here, we have Superfluid, Sushi Swap. So you just have all these things where you're able to do in the Safe UI, which just makes things a little bit easier. So let's dive back to the. And so yeah, we ran through configuring a safe, selecting your chains, activating your multi-sig, and how you could then fund and execute transactions. So now we're going to dive into integrations for the latter half of the call, and then we're going to have an open session to provide support for people. And I'm not sure if the HATS team has joined the call, but if any member from the HATS team is here, we'll have them actually do a quick demo of the new feature. If not, I could highlight some things from it. So when it comes to integrations, there's safe account abstraction, which is very powerful. A lot of the smart accounts that are created for users with like a privy and these different applications to abstract the wallet experience from users are on the back end using Safe. So they're deploying a Safe, they're having a signer added. The embedded wallet that Privy creates is the signer for Safe. And then also with the new ERC, I believe 7. Let's see, I gotta get this right. So let's go open it first. ERC 7579. There's even more modules being created around that to enable safes to be deployed with that ERC. So when it comes to smart accounts, this is another documentation to just dive into like kind of how smart accounts work, learn the differences between an EOA and a smart account, where smart account is code driven and an EOA is key driven. That ties into Alex's question at the beginning around private key, where there is no private key with a smart account. It's just code where you have different signing mechanisms and signature mechanisms. And then, highly secure and stuff like that. And Matt will share a link if you want to dive into more of this architecture. I want to highlight how within the Dev Guild and how a lot of projects are using with, like, for example, Privy to do account abstraction and how easy it is to do now. So with Privy, for example, let's say you want to enable your users when they sign to your application, you deploy a smart account for them, and then everything they do in the application is covered via like gas sponsored, and really to the user, they don't even have to be aware that they have a smart account on the back end. So how Privy enables that very easily, and this is all really new within the past couple months, is you're able to enable smart wallets for your app. So you click that, and then you click the different implementation you'd want. So Kernel has their own smart account, and all these are built off of ERC 4337. So you're able to select, okay, I want to do a Coinbase one. A lot of people pick Safe because it's it's been most well known in the space. And then you can select your chains that you want to be active on. So here, let's see, I wanted to update chains. You select your chain, and then you select your bundler. And then even make things even more smoother, you can do a quick setup. So what does that look like? You first select your bundler and paymaster, and not to fully dive into those, but they're kind of relevant just for sponsors. So that's how our transactions, for example, on Safe, were able to be sponsored with the bundle and paymaster. But this basically enables you to do transactions, cover transactions on behalf of your user. So here we use Pimlico, for example, and then you'll put your API key, and then you select the different chains that you want to use it for. And once you do that, now we go to user management. So look at some of the Greenpill users. So you're able to see here. So if I highlight over, I believe Bertrand also got a smart wallet deployed. You see that they have, when they sign in, so they sign in with their email. So that abstracts away kind of what the experience. An embedded wallet is created on device that's then able to sign transactions for your smart wallet that's deployed. And then here's also this passkey, which you could use to save if you want to do that as well. So all this from this clicking a few buttons, you're able to set up a smart wallet for users if you're using Privy. And there's some documentation around that that I can drop in the chat. I'm not sure if I put this in the document. So yeah, it's very powerful. And then kind of diving in, if you want to learn more, you could dive into the 4337 and the module that exists around it and what enables that, how you could do different custom things with that module. And then, of course, the new updated ERC, which is 7579, which just makes it even more embedded within the initiation of a EOA or wallet, the ability to like have a safe be deployed. And then now to dive into HATS protocol. So HATS protocol is using, or they just released a new feature, and maybe I'll pause to see, is anybody in the HATS team on the call? I'm not sure because I'm not fully looking at the chat. Not sure. Okay. Well, I could cover to the best. A lot of this is very new. We had a demo with the HATS team earlier this week where they showed us a new feature where you could automate the signers on your safe with different hats, which I think is very powerful because, being able to like manage your hats and roles in a way that you don't have to always manually update signers and things of that nature, I think is very powerful. So what does that look like? You come to HATS pro.hats protocol.xyz, and then click to create a council safe, which will load this up. And then here we can say Greenpill test. I'll fully go through things, council name, Greenpill council. You can select your chain. We'll do, doesn't matter, we'll do Ethereum. You can add a description. Then you can figure your signer threshold. Just gonna do 1, 4, and then you appoint council members. And then here's a really cool thing where you're able to define what the requirements are to join the council, right? One is signing an agreement. So it must have signed something, holding tokens, which could use if you to have different governance tokens and people have different ways to check things, and then have a compliance check, which is manual, but something that's very powerful to ensure the last final human level check around adding people to a wallet. So they can add different council managers, and I'll once again do people's ENS names I know. You can also add their email. Luckily, I've got Greenpill builders. I'll do the same on core as well. And then it's gonna be core, Greenpill builders. And then I think I had to add one more. Cool. Then Chris, that Greenpill builders. So you could add all these people. And the reason the email's added is so that you could notify them and have, send for the compliance checks and different things like that touch point that most people tend to have emails, and that's a good way to get in touch with them. And then here, you will define your agreement. So be regenerative, right there. And then set your token requirement, Pepe. You can pick a lot of any token you want. We're gonna go here. We'll just say, where can I pick ETH? Let's go with Give. You can do Give. We have one minimum balance, one Give. And then set council members. I'm not sure what I did here. Let's see if I go back to step 3. Sign up threshold. Okay, so once again, yeah, you will then define the initial. I thought, that was interesting. Okay, that might have just been a bug on their end. But here, yeah, then you can subscribe and deploy. I won't actually do that, but you can then see this last screen. And you can share it as a draft. That's nice. So I'm gonna save that and just drop it in the chat for people to take a look at. And yeah, so you can see all the different things you've said: the council manager, compliance manager, agreement managers. This is the invoice. This is around because it is a subscription thing that they offer. So this is HATS is something that should start generating revenue, and this is one of the main ways looking to do it. So I won't deploy anything, but really, really powerful. We'll look to share a demo and walkthrough video from the HATS team post this call so you can learn more. But I just want to pause there because I think it is a really potentially powerful feature and see if anybody has questions about this integration. And I could answer to the best of my abilities.
Say you have a similar dynamics in other platforms. Would it be possible to make some type of integration of the data or the metadata on this other platform that does what practically the same? This is something that we can envision in the future. It's something that already exists.
I don't have a link to that, but they are building basically their own kind of safe wallet UI, right? In a sense to where it's the same like a safe wallet pulling in data, and I think they're looking to enable the ability to do transactions. And in my opinion, I think HATS has a lot of potential to create a better safe wallet UI than the one that currently exists, one that's more automated based on roles, and then also be able to execute transactions. And yeah, I think that's what I hope to see going forward. So I think this is the start for sure. Atis?
Hey, hello guys. Hello. Is it possible to input details about the transaction, like in the invoice, because here in Greenpill Brazil, we passed through some things like, okay, we did this payment before using Safe, but now we always need to look for okay, what this payment was about, because it was supposed to include details about that and something like that.
I think it depends on how public and private you want things to be, right? So I think there's power in that anonymity with transactions and not them being on chain and not fully describing what they're for. And then you could have a private reference point off chain that you use to coalesce. So if that's important to kind of keep sensitive information, names, and details around what those payments are for, I definitely recommend keeping it off chain and then referencing the safe. It's definitely tedious to do, but there definitely are, I believe, tools that probably in some of those apps that I showed that could help do that and make it easier to track those transactions. If, a lot of us are building in public, so we're fine with that. Safe does have that new feature. We're able to add notes to your transactions. So you could publicly, which you could either put a link, right, to something that, then kind of describes the transaction in full, or just a little note that, describes what the transaction's for. So just based on your comfort level around privacy and publicity. Yeah, go for that.
Just a question. When is the PO admin window?
I think it's okay. We're at 9:56. Yeah, so the PO-up is open. Thanks for reminding me because I would have forgot about that one. We're gonna dive. Yeah, let's go to the PO-up real quick, and then we'll dive into a couple of last integrations, mainly Tronverse, and then we'll open it up for questions and technical support. And so, here we go. So it's PO-up time. So in order to get the PO-up, what you need to do is open up the PO-up app. I don't even know if I have my phone. Let me make sure my phone's at. I'll make sure to claim it later. But open up the app, enter for the secret phase when you click the claim button, and then the secret is build safe. So yeah, make sure to build safe.
With a space or another?
With a hyphen, build dash space. So we'll spend another 30 seconds and claim that. If anybody has issues, send a message in the chat. Cool. Let's continue and get a speed run through some things because I just want to, for the sake of time, we're almost upon the hour. Appreciate everybody for staying this long. So just want to highlight one integration, one more. I'll briefly mention garden safe consoles, and I want to mention them in the sense that how you could use your safe to manage things like this, like different garden pools and different funding pools for your community. So that's kind of where the integration comes, useful across different, applications that optimized for using Safe. So hey, like we have Council Safe, and you can click here to get the details around that Safe. Let's see if that open up. And yeah, that just opens the link to the Safe. So that's an integration. And then I think a very powerful one is with Charmverse, where you're able to have payouts initiated via Safe. So, and to highlight kind of a dev guild process that we've done for that is where we've had Marcus, who's done design bounties for the dev guild, to where its initial starts off as a proposal that Marcus puts in for doing the work, puts some milestones around, creates different bounties for different milestones throughout the work. That goes to a process of evaluation, and then the bounties get published on chain, so you can see prototype, development stipend, etc. And then if I come to this tab over here, you can then see all these have been paid out. What does that look like? So Marcus will make a submission after when that's completed, and then the payment gets initiated. You can initiate it on Charmverse, which is very nice. So you don't have to go to the Safe and even the amount, put the recipient, all these details. It's all filled out for you, and you just initiate here, and I'll show what that looks like with another one. So if we come back to bounties, so for example, let's say here I submitted one. I found a couple bugs when doing QA for impact reef. Here I'm able to then, send a payment. And this is very, very powerful, where you could use your EOA, which is a connected wallet, but then you also could select different EOAs you have for the wallet. Mine aren't labeled, I think, because they just recently updated it. They used to be labeled. So let's see, let me go show what that looks like as well. So if you go to your account, leave here, right? You can see all your MultiSigs, and then you can label them. I believe this is for, let's see, let me get the working capital one so I could queue up this transaction. So the working capital is 0xe093. So let's find out Arbitrum. There it is. So this is the working capital for the dev guild, for example. So once I add this label, should make it visible here. So now if I come back to this, I want to send payment. Maybe I need to refresh. Let me try that. So if I just send payment, well, it doesn't look like it didn't work, but I know which one it is. So you could then initiate it here.
Don't you need to update on the profile? Press some button to save or something like that?
No, it should save. And it looks like it's like currently bugging out a little bit. So, but just want to highlight that typically this does work well, and you're able to initiate transactions from Safe. And they kind of show, I'll do it with this EOA just to show, like executing transaction. But really wanted to highlight the Safe part of it because I think that's pretty powerful. I guess someone are. All right, cool. Well, let's keep moving. But I think it's a very nice feature that to do with Charmverse. And then just to, we're gonna do some technical support session. But before that, I want to highlight some next steps for people on this call, especially if you're gonna be applying for GG23 rounds and stuff of that nature. So a couple things. If you have existing MultiSigs, this is something we had with the Dev Guild where we had deployed a Safe on Arbitrum and OP and all different addresses. And then, okay, yeah, thanks, Alms, for joining. See you soon. So definitely want to make sure that if you have existing MultiSigs, find ways to reuse them. So now knowing that Safes can be deployed multi-chain, you'll be okay, we're going to use this Safe for treasury. We're going to use this Safe for our working capital. And then we'll use this Safe for our council and kind of, just reuse things. So you're not deploying a bunch of new Safes and then having to manage all these, and because it will populate your Safe UI and this, become messy to figure out like, what's this wallet for? What's this address? And things of that nature. So finding ways to reuse and just add networks, I think is the best way to go. Then preparing for GG23, I think definitely if you have an existing Safe you've been using, let's say you're using an Arbitrum and the round you're going to apply for is on Celo, let's deploy that Safe on Celo, right? And then use the address. And then you're able to now just continue to use the address for different rounds besides deploying a new Safe. So definitely recommend that if you're applying for grant rounds and want to reuse a Safe. And then definitely want to encourage exploring the integrations with hats and Charmverse. with hats, like I said, we'll share some more material around the new features, but really bullish and optimistic as they continue to develop more and more safe integrations, how it's going to make our communities and our project management lives a lot easier, because we'll be able to automate signers and different things of that nature. So just want to highlight those next steps. And let's bring it back for technical support. So get to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes just answering any questions, helping troubleshoot if you've been having issues with your safe, can help try to solve those issues, and yeah, just discuss best practices. So yeah, open for everybody to ask questions and support. All right, having ENS to a MultiSig.
Concerning the community rounds in GG23, I think that would be, if DevGuild can provide some support for local projects, and the community round itself here in Rio, we're going to do that. We're going to do a workshop, but if it needs some technical stuff, is there like a tutorial out there besides this tutorial that could go more in the specifics of how to set up different safes for different contexts and things like that?
On YouTube, I found a couple tutorials. They're not super up to date. So honestly, which made me potentially realize that this workshop might be like the most up to date material you could get, because even on the Safe website or like their YouTube channel, they didn't really have much. It's more developer focused and around like building with Safe than setting up a safe for communities and stuff like that. So I could reach out to the Safe team to see if they have some material they could share. But I wasn't really able to find that much. I did share one video link in the workshop guide that we'll share post workshop that has all the links that I went through during the call, and it'll have some additional ones. So that was the best one I could find. That seemed to be the most up to date. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Thanks for that, man.
Yeah, and Wasabi actually cross promoted this. They're gonna be doing like a lot of onboarding sessions and education sessions, and I think could tie into those. And definitely provide space for the Dev Guild to help with that as well. So that's definitely something we could discuss and maybe put some things on the calendar where we could have an open session for people just to, get support with their GG23 applications. But been definitely talking closely with Wasabi about kind of coordinating those things. So yeah, I think there will be some updates there, and we'll definitely have some sessions.
One last question before I go. Is it mandatory for any application GG23 have a safe account?
It depends on the requirements for the round. I think for the region coordination round, we haven't fully even for the last region coordination round with the Greenpill network, for example, with Greenpill chapters and guilds, that was a requirement we had. We're using a MultiSig. So it's something that this could be enforced. And that's why Gitcoin has that question, which is a nice quick filter, right? To check, okay, is this a MultiSig or not? So that when people are reviewing your applications, you can be like, okay, you need to be using a MultiSig. So it's something that's enforced at the reviewer operator level.
Thanks, man. Again, nice work.
Thank you. Cool. We got any other questions? Yeah, I could show ENS MultiSig a little bit, dive into that. I don't know if I won't be able to fully set one up because there's a lot of signing messages and stuff like that. And it's on mainnet, so I'm not trying to pay the gas fees, but could definitely kind of highlight where to go to do that. And I could highlight it with my own personal safe because it's not something that needs to be even tied to something like that. So yeah, when you're talking about safes and ENS, what does that look like? So one is, so for example, I have offer.eth is the name I use, and what that looks like is that, so this is the ownership. So this is kind of the key thing here, right? So the flow I recommend Amio, if you're looking to have a ENS, typically when you buy ENS, it's easier to buy with a EOA. So I definitely recommend just buying an ENS with the EOA because it's just easier to do the transaction, sign the messages, because there's a lot of messages you sign. So initially I bought that with my EOA account, my 0x2AA. Once I did that, I then transferred the ownership of the ENS to my safe, which is this address here, but I kept the name pointed to my EOA. So if people still send funds or still associate, or when I'm referencing, they're still using that EOA, but it's owned by my safe. So it's very easy to do. So once you just buy your ENS name, you just come to the ownership tab. And then I'm not able to do anything here, but let me actually change to my EOA with Rabby so you could see the different buttons you would see. So I'm gonna open the safe. Man, computer's going real slow. I gotta need to close some tabs. So cool. So you just saw I just changed it, and now you can see edit roles. So that's basically all you get. So you want to edit roles, you want to change the owner, right? You want to change the name points to, you could do that. You can set it to your safe. You could choose a new address if you like. Let's say and this is how you keep your ENS safe, right? Especially for any initiative or for yourself personally, because it's owned by your safe. So let's say your wallet gets compromised. All you would have to do come here is like, okay, I got a new wallet. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to put in my new wallet, and then update it. And then if you want to change the owner for whatever reason, you have a new safe, you could just change it here and input a safe. And definitely make sure the safe is deployed on mainnet, because all ENS names are on mainnet. So that's definitely something to make sure that your safe is on mainnet. But yeah, that's the way to manage it and change roles, where you have an owner and then what the ENS points to. Hopefully I answered the question well.
And then Amio also asked if you can go over adding an ENS to. I'm sorry, you kind of just went over that.
I got the process. Cool. All right, so let's come back to the slides to close the call off. So yeah, I want to say thanks to joining. Thanks for everybody for staying on a little bit over time for hour. Hopefully this becomes a strong artifact we can share throughout the regen space and Web3 space at large to help people better use safes and have a better good experience with safe going forward. And yeah, appreciate you guys all for taking the time out of your day to join.
Thank you, man, for leading and hosting. Thank you, Matt, for sharing all the resources.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt, for sharing.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Oh, I didn't know you were still here. See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's end. I'm in the recording.